Alex Eala was born in Quezon City on May 23, 2005. She is left-handed, stands 5'9", and plays an aggressive game built for fast courts. At age 13, she left home and moved to Mallorca, Spain, to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy. Her coach since 2023 has been John Bosch. As of this week, she sits at world number 20, the highest ranking any Filipino player has ever reached. Not close, not by a small margin. The next highest Filipino ranking in history belonged to a woman named Mari Chris, who reached number 284 back in 1999. That gap between 284 and 20 is the size of an entire generation, with no tennis hero to follow. Think about Novak Djokovic walking into Belgrade. Think about Rafael Nadal stepping onto a court in Barcelona. Think about Serena Williams at the US Open. These are the players people usually mean when they talk about home court advantage. All three came from countries with deep tennis history behind them. Eala has none of that. The Philippines never had a national tennis pipeline. No televised stars. No reason for millions of people to grow up caring about this sport. And yet somehow, she gets the same effect these legends get, in cities that have nothing to do with her. Here is where it stops making sense in the normal way. Eala's breakout moment happened in Miami in March 2025. She entered as a wildcard, ranked outside the top 100, and beat the world number 2 to reach the semifinals. That is the kind of win that should explode a fan base overnight. But it did not happen there. The biggest crowd surge of her career came months later, at the Australian Open, on a small outer court, known as Court 6. Filipino fans lined up so deep that the line stopped moving because the court had already run out of seats. At that point, she had not won a title. She was not even in the top 30. By pure results, she was actually less impressive in Melbourne than she had been in Miami. So winning did not build that crowd. Something else did. Hold on to that question, because it comes back later. Now picture August 3, 2026. Eala walks into the final of the Mubadala DC Open against Jessica Pegula, an American. The tournament's #1 seed, playing in her own country's capital. Every single advantage on paper belongs to Pegula. Home crowd. Home ranking, home turf. And still, reporters on the ground said Filipino fans made up most of the stadium. Tagalog chants, Philippine flags, in an American arena, at an American event, cheering for the visiting player. Eala lost the first set, then came back to win it in 3, becoming the first Filipino ever to hold a double-toss singles title. The score matters, but the crowd matters more, because a road match should never feel like a home match. Unless something bigger than tennis is happening. Alex Eala walked through the toughest draw of her career and became the first player from the Philippines to ever win a double-E singles title. This isn't hype, this is the real-time rise of a superstar, and the entire tennis world stopped to react. Let's talk about who she beat, because this wasn't a lucky run. In the first round, she took down the Olympic champion, Chinwen Zheng. In the second round, she knocked out the defending champion, Leylah Fernandez. Then she beat Naomi Osaka, a 4-time major champion, and followed that up by eliminating the world No. 1 seed on her way to the final. 3 top seeds gone in a single week. Analysts on the desk called it exactly what it was. She absorbed the power from big hitters like Zheng and Osaka and turned it right back against them, with a return game that's become, in their words, absolutely deadly. Then came the final against Jessica Pegula, and this is where the story gets wild. Pegula came out sharp and took the first set 6-4. Eala clawed back into the second set, winning it on serve, and then the rain hit. Play was suspended. The match got frozen mid-second set, and both players had to walk off, go to bed, and come back the next day to finish at a final that literally spanned 24 hours across 2 separate days. When they resumed, something had shifted. Pegula, who had just 20 unforced errors before the delay, came back out and racked up 30 unforced errors after it, wildly uncharacteristic for a player with her experience. Meanwhile, Eala just got bolder. Analysts described her as fearless, aggressive early in points, cranking up the miles per hour on her forehand, and she closed it out by taking the third set 6-1 to win her first career WTA title. Think about what that means for Pegula too. This was her 23rd career WTA final, and she just went to the negative side of her record, now sitting at 11 wins and 12 losses in title matches. And yet she stood on that podium and, with total class, told the crowd how much Eala has transformed women's tennis, how everyone in the building was there to see her play. That's the kind of sportsmanship that made this moment even bigger. Now let's get inside Eala's head, because her own words after the match are where this story really hits. She said the last 24 hours were a blur. She'd warmed up what felt like 1,000 times waiting through the delay, and when she finally hit that match point, she says she basically blacked out. Everything just came rushing at her at once. She talked about being nervous before the final points and trying to channel that nervous energy into moving her feet and hitting clean committed balls. And when it was over, she dropped straight to the ground. She wasn't just carrying her own dream on her shoulders either. Eala has become a genuine national symbol back in the Philippines. She even received a presidential commendation after her breakout run to the second week at Wimbledon earlier this year. She talked openly about how heavy that recognition can feel in the moment, how overwhelming it is to experience these firsts in real time, but how tennis has been her whole life since she was a kid. And competing under pressure is the one thing she knows how to do no matter what. And her fan base is turning into its own storyline. Exactly 1 year ago, Alex Eala wasn't even in the top 50 of women's tennis. She was ranked 65th in the world. Days before that, she lost in the first round of the Canadian Open. Fast forward 12 months, and she's standing on center court in Washington, D.C., holding her first ever WTA trophy, having just beaten the world number 3, Jessica Pegula, in 3 sets. That's not a slow climb. That's an explosion. And today I'm breaking down exactly how it happened, in her own words, in her coach's words, and in the words of the woman who just lost to her. Let's start with the moment nobody expected. Pegula, the runner-up, the top seed who'd barely lost a final all 2026 season, walking up to the mic seconds after defeat and calling Eala an amazing player, not through gritted teeth. She talked about watching Eala grow over the last couple years.